Hey guys, Melanie Cobley here with Endorphin Junkies, Release Your Endorphins. And I am continuing, oh wow, it's late, I can't talk. I'm continuing our land navigation lessons. And today we will be learning about resection. So what is resection? We touched on it yesterday a little bit when we were talking about finding your azimuth. So resection is actually finding where you are on the map if you don't know. And you do that by finding two spots in real life that you can also find on your map. It'll make sense when I show you the map. So if you're on your azimuth or you're on a trail and somehow you get turned around or you get off of your trail or your azimuth and you're not sure where you're at, this is a great way for you to find out where you're at, and then you can set a new azimuth to plot your way out of the woods. So this is a really, really good skill to have. It's a good skill to know, especially if you're going to be out in the woods hiking around, or even if you're a hunter. This would be something that would be beneficial for you. Alright, so I am not going to wait for people to jump on because it's 20 after 10 already and I am well past my bedtime by almost 2 hours. So I'm going to get into this and show you guys all about resection and finding where you're at on the map. Okay, so I'm going to try and get our camera turned around and lined up on the map for you. So I can hopefully bear with me a moment while I adjust my stand, and hopefully it can show enough of the map in the area that I want it to. Maybe. There we go. Okay. Yeah, perfect. All right, so you can see that there's some triangles on the map. Let me turn on another light. Maybe it'll help with the shadows that it's casting there. Okay. So we're going to pretend for a moment that we were hiking on a trail in the Allegheny National Forest called the Tracy Run Trail. So the Tracy Run Trail comes down all through here, and then there's this bigger section of it here where there's some loops and stuff of the trail. So maybe you were hiking along Tracy Run and you decided that you wanted to go off on some of the less traveled portions of it. So you're hiking along and you come up here and something, so you lose the trail somewhere in here, right? So all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm not where I should be. I think that maybe I should stop and take a look at my map and see if I can find out where I am. So for the purpose of actually teaching you guys how to find resection on your map, I have to plot a point where you are on the map. So for all intensive purposes, I know the answers to these things already. So I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit to show you how you can practice finding resection on a map so that you're comfortable doing it. So that way, if you ever do need to use it out in the middle of the woods, you're very comfortable with finding your azimuth for two spots. Okay? So we're standing on this hilltop right here. Obviously, when we look at our map, we have no idea that this is the hilltop we're actually on. But what we do know is in our pretend world, our vision can see a hilltop up here and a hilltop over here. So what we can do is look at that hilltop, and then we can look at the contours of the earth. We can look at all of the valleys, the spurs and the draws, and come to a conclusion to say, okay, I know that I got off the trail somewhere around here, but I don't know if I'm on this hilltop, maybe I'm somewhere over here even. All I know is I got off the trail somewhere up here. So I have a general idea of where I am, but I know that from where I'm standing, I can see the top of this hill and the top of this hill. So I look at the my real life views, and I find 2 points that are easily identifiable and stand out. Now, as my husband was refreshing me on this, he mentioned that many maps actually have like radio towers and things like that marked. Our map doesn't, but yours might, or maybe you have one that does. Who knows? So, there might be a radio tower up here, and maybe there's a radio tower over here, and they're both marked on your map. So that would make it easier for you to identify what you see in real life, and then take that and find it on your map. Now, what you do from here is we are going to find our magnetic azimuth. So, for all intents and purposes, you're standing here. We're going to start with this hilltop down here. It has an elevation of, 2,141. So we're going to start here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your compass and you're just going to turn so that it is lined up with the center of that hilltop. And that's going to give you your general, that's kind of like giving you somewhat of an azimuth for that hilltop from where you're standing. So when you do that, on this hilltop, the magnetic azimuth is 141 degrees. Now, what you need to do is find your back azimuth, okay? Because what you want to do is reverse the azimuth you just shot to this hilltop. You need to reverse it so that you can find where you're actually at. So, to find your back azimuth, to find your back azimuth, you're going to add 180 degrees to your 141. Okay, so that gives you 321 degrees magnetic azimuth, magnetic back azimuth. Okay, now this is where your declination is going to come into play, guys. So your declination, if you remember right, on this map that I've been using, our magnetic north is 11 degrees off of our grid north. Now, what we're essentially doing is we're taking our magnetic back azimuth and converting it to a grid back azimuth. So instead of adding 11 to 321 degrees, because that's already our magnetic azimuth, we need to find our grid back azimuth. So we're going to subtract 11, which gives us 310 degrees. Okay? Now, because I know is 310 degrees, what I do is I center the compass on this hilltop. And your orienting lines may not line up with one of your map's grid lines. In this case, try to get your compass as straight as you possibly can. And that looks pretty straight. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take a straight edge, try and get it under your compass, and you're going to line that straight edge so that it's at 310 degrees with your compass dial. Okay, so here I have on my dial 310 degrees. My dial is also set at 0 degrees. So now what I want to do make sure that's lined up right. Is take and I want to draw a line, long line far out. Okay, because we don't know where we're at. So we need to draw a long line. Now we're going to repeat that same process for our second point that we identified on the map. So for our second point, you're going to repeat the process from where you're standing, lost in the woods. You're going to hold your compass in front of you, and you're going to turn until you have that compass, you're turning your whole body until that compass is lined up with that hilltop. Preferably the center of it as best you can. So when you do that, that gives you your magnetic azimuth to that hilltop, okay? Now, your magnetic azimuth to this hilltop is 75 degrees. When you add your 180 to it to get your back magnetic azimuth, that gives you 225 degrees. Now we have to figure out what our back grid azimuth is by subtracting 11 from our magnetic back azimuth. And that gives us a grid back azimuth of 244 degrees. So we just repeat the process by placing the compass. We center that needle in the center of the hilltop on our map, line our orienting lines up as best we can with the grid lines on the map. Oops. Okay, we have our straight edge, and we place that straight edge at our 244 degrees. And then we simply draw our line till it intersects with the first line that we just drew. And that gives you your location on the map. So if you want to practice this at home on your map so that you get comfortable figuring all this stuff out and you get into the habit of always using your declination, because if you don't use the declination to figure out your grid back azimuth, you're not going to find your actual location on the map. You're going to be really far off. So when we set this up, my husband set it up for me so that I could go through it and get a refresher on it, because it's been a while. He plotted the points for me, and then I just moved forward to figure it out. You can see some of the numbers I had written down. So what you do on your map is you plot 3 points. Okay, you plot your point where you are quote-unquote lost, and then you plot 2 points on the map that you can see. If you were pretending that you were lost, we're assuming that you could see these 2 points. And again, this is to practice. So what you need to do then is figure out what your azimuth is from your lost point to your viewpoint, your identifiable objects. So if you remember yesterday, we set our azimuth in a similar way, actually. We had our start point and our destination point. Only this time, we have our lost point and a viewpoint that we have identified in real life and we're able to identify on the map. So you center that needle. Well, excuse me, first, to practice, you're gonna, again, use your straight edge to connect the 2 points. Right? I drew the line on my map with a pencil. I have a hard time using the paper. So, I have my needle centered on my lost point. And I'm going to, once again, move it down until my orienting lines are perfectly lined up with my map grid lines. Now I look at the straight line that I just drew, and that's telling me that it is about 130, about 131. So it's kind of right in between 130 and 132. So it's about 131 degrees for the grid. Now, I need to know what my magnetic azimuth is from my last point to this point to figure out everything else. And the reason I say that is because when you're out in the woods, the azimuth that you shoot from your lost point to the object that you have identified on your map and in real life is going to be your magnetic. So you never want to forget that you have to do that declination transition, okay? I don't want you guys to forget that because it's going to really screw you up if you don't remember it. So I have, 100, what did I say? About 130. Yes. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like really tired. So my grid azimuth from my last point to my first mountaintop that I have identified is 130 degrees. My magnetic azimuth will be 141 degrees. So I'm going to write that down on a piece of paper at 141. Now, because that number is 141, I need to add 180 to it so that I can get my back azimuth, which gives me the 321 magnetic back azimuth. Okay? Now, to get my grid back azimuth so that I can go here and draw this line and this long line all the way back so that I can find the intersecting points, I need to now subtract 11 from my magnetic back azimuth, which gives me the 310 degrees. Okay? I hope that makes sense. And you would just do the same thing with this one. You'll find your grid azimuth from your last point to this hilltop, and then you figure out what your magnetic azimuth is. You add the 180 degrees to it to get your magnetic back azimuth. Now that you know your magnetic back azimuth, you subtract your declination number, which ours is 11, so we're subtracting 11 to give us the 244 degrees for our grid back azimuth. Okay, and that's how we practice on the map. So you plot you know where you're lost at when you're practicing. And that's just to help you, like I said, get comfortable with finding your back azimuth. Now, a little something to remember with your back azimuth. You only add 180 degrees if the number is between 0 and I guess 180. And if the number is over 180 degrees, then you subtract 180 from that number. So you never have a negative number, okay? And your number cannot go over 360 because the compass doesn't, there's not a degree for that on your compass, and it just doesn't exist. So that is the basics of resection. Resection, once again, is being able to identify 2 points out in the woods or wherever your location is. You're identifying 2 points in real life, finding those 2 points on your map, and then you are going to shoot your azimuth 2.1 to get your magnetic azimuth, and then you're going to add or subtract 180 from your magnetic azimuth to get your magnetic back azimuth. Then you're going to take your declination number and add or subtract that to your magnetic back azimuth to get your grid back azimuth, so that you can take your compass and put it on the first point, on that first object that you found, to draw your line so that you can have intersecting lines to find your point where you're at on the map. So once you've done that, you can look at your location where you now know you are and say, oh, okay, so I need to get back out here. This is where I need to go. I needed to turn around at some point, or, you know, I thought I was turning around and I didn't, whatever the case may be. Now you can just plot your azimuth over to here so that you can get back on your path. So if you do that, you're going to end up, let's say we just want to get back to the main loop, one of the loops on the Tracy Run. Right? So you're just going to draw your line from where you now know you are. Now when you do that, you can see that if you stay on this azimuth, you're going to end up crossing your trail again. So you could actually just shoot your azimuth to here, find your azimuth. So we're going to line up here, and it looks like our azimuth is about 90, so it's at 90 degrees. Okay, so now if you remember right, you're going to hold your compass here, and you're going to turn your body until your north needle is at your 90 degrees, okay? And then you're going to just turn your dial. Here, excuse me. You're going to turn your dial to 90 degrees, okay? And then you're going to turn your body until your north arrow is in line with your orienting arrow. So for all intents and purposes, I'm just turning the compass. So this is, when you look down at your compass, you're holding it. When you look down, your north arrow and your orienting arrow should always be matched up, and you know that you are traveling in the correct direction. So if you need a refresher about the azimuth and staying on your azimuth, refer to yesterday's video or yesterday's blog that has a lot of information on it. For the blog that I will post for today's live video, I'll go ahead and post the steps to finding your resection, and then I'll post the steps to using your map to practice finding your resection. Okay, I'm going to turn it back to me for a minute, maybe. There we go. Okay. So I apologize if I confused you guys with this. It's, believe it or not, it's hard to explain without actually having the person there physically to go through it, or having somebody there to make comments and ask questions as you're going along. And I kind of drove my husband nuts, because when he was first teaching me this stuff, I was like, well, I don't understand why you're going to put 3 points on the map when you're trying to find your resection. You're not going to know where you're at on the map when you're out in the woods, or, you know, whatever area you might be in and that you're lost or turned around at. And he had to tell me like 3 different ways why he needed to put 3 plots on the map, why he needed to know you needed to put your lost point on the map, because you're not actually out there getting your magnetic azimuths for the mountaintops that you just circled on your map. And I was like, oh, so you kind of have to do the legwork to figure out the azimuth to those mountaintops, because you're not actually there. So that's why you want to do, when you're practicing on your map, you want to do the 3 points. You can do more than 3 points also, but you need at least 2 points on the map so that you can get that intersecting line to show you where you're at on the map. Make sense, guys? I hope it does. If it doesn't, feel free to ask questions, feel free to post comments, anything that you might want to add even. I know that this stuff is, to me, it's fun. I like learning about it and trying to use it out in the woods. So I hope that you have found some value in our tutorials. Tomorrow, what I am going to do is kind of split my live into 2 parts, because I don't really have a lot left for the basic stuff of land navigation to go over with you guys. The only other thing that I wanted to go over with you guys was how to read the contour lines on the map a little bit more, because we didn't really cover that too much. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is cover that briefly with you, because it won't take long to go over. And then what I want to do is kind of lead into what my next series is going to be all about, and kind of get you guys set up for that. So if you're watching these, stay tuned tomorrow. It'll be a short one, and I'm just going to kind of go over what my next series is going to be on, which I'll give you it's going to be about living with migraines and kind of my journey to all of what I've been through with migraines, and trying to find relief with them, and some of the things that have worked for me. A lot of the triggers that are common for migraine sufferers, I pretty much have all of them, and some that aren't real common. So I was just gonna go over a bunch of stuff like that with you guys, and I hope that we can actually get a conversation going during one of the lives. That would be pretty awesome. So that is the plan for tomorrow. I hope to see you guys tomorrow, probably. Oh geez. Say that I'll probably go on fairly early tomorrow, because I have a busy day scheduled later on. So I hope hope to be on tomorrow about 9 or 10 a.m. Eastern time. And I will post a confirmation for you guys to let you know for sure what time I'll be on. But definitely it will be in the morning. We have some company coming from out of town, so I want to make sure that I have all this stuff done early on in the day. All right. Well, I am going to finish up the blog for this and get all of my stuff posted for you guys. And like I said, please, please, please leave comments. If you found value in the stuff, please feel free to share it. Tag your friends. It is very welcomed. I want to get my company, my brand out there because I'm just starting out. As you can see, I don't have very many people on the page. So if you think your friends would enjoy any of this stuff, feel free to invite them to like it. Okay, I hope you guys all have a terrific, well, I'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll wish you a terrific weekend. Good night, guys. I'm going to bed because now I can't talk right. See you later.